I wanted to share this watch with you all because I bought this watch with my own money. I went shopping and I had a budget of about £500. And I thought I'm going to get as close to my £500 budget as possible. Obviously, there's loads of stuff you can get for way less. I wanted to get the best possible overall package that just spoke to me, if you know what I mean. You know, just sort of looked interesting and captivated me. And this watch I'm reviewing today and sharing with you has spoken to me in so many ways, but not literally, because that would be very creepy. So let's get down to business, and I want to share with you the stats and specs of this piece. And I think we're very used to seeing, if you've watched my channel a lot before, you're going to know that there's a lot of watches which offer great specifications for very little money. And I don't want to get too bogged down with that, because this watch still does have a good specification, but it does have a lot of things which all the other high-spec, dirt cheap watches out there you can get, what they don't have. That is design, flair, individuality, lineage and heritage, and that's all what comes together. So let's have a look at the stats and specs of this piece, and you get to see what you're going to get for your money. So guys, I could easily waffle for far too long about this watch. I'm going to try and keep it sweet and short, just like my dog, and just get straight to the point with the things I would criticise immediately about this watch. Just so you guys know that I'm not 100% biased and this is the most perfect watch ever made, because obviously it isn't. So let's get those out of the way first. First of all, the movement. It's lazy and cost-cutting, even though this is an ISO-rated movement, which means it's reinforced and it's fine for diving, which I think most movements are generally anyway, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. They could have put a 9000 series movement in here, because that's under the umbrella of the Citizen Group. BULOVA are under that umbrella, as are Myota. They have that vast resource beneath them they could have put in this watch. This is nearly £500. That could have helped make it slimmer. Then I'd move on to the fact it's a bit thick, and this strap is 19mm, bit awkward to change out if I wanted to swap it out. It's not a common size, 20mm would have been better. And it's silicone, which is okay, but it's just a bit sort of sticky feeling and attracts lint and dust, as you can see, and you have to rinse it just to get all that crap off. Lots of polished surfaces, but that's in keeping with this sort of vintage retro look from the late 60s anyway, so we'll live with that. And the other criticism, back to that movement again, is that rotor wobble. It does wobble about in there. It's a bit annoying, but you know, it's not noticeable all the time. But it's actually a very comfortable watch. This shape of case is really good and wears well, and this conforming strap situation is really good for comfort. So a little bit of history. I'm not going to bore you to death with like the life story of BULOVA and all that jazz. I'm actually just going straight to the point with the snorkel. Effectively came out in '68. That's introduced crosshairs on the dial, which obviously this has got. Had 3D markers with tritium in there, which is really cool. This doesn't have tritium. Wish it did. It had an acrylic resin bicolor, as this does. Bezel insert. As you know, this is sapphire. There's lots of little tweaks and upgrades, but it's got a lot of that original design inspiration fed back into this reissue. Then in '69 was when the first ever Oceanographer came about. That's when they slapped it on the dial, basically. And I think it's quite funny and quite cheeky that they said, well, let's stretch this 200 meters or 660 feet. They wanted it to be 666 feet. And then the nickname Devil Diver came about. And obviously, I think it's just cool to have that ominous undertone or that kind of name associated with this watch. And then you got this vibrant, slightly devilish colour, but I'd say it's a lot more like a raging inferno or a nice orange. But I love orange. Oh, it's just such a fun, joyous colour. And what practical colour, in fact, as well, for a dive watch. And they did do a release of this watch. It was slightly different to this before, and that was a lot more money. As you see, this is under £500, about $700. They did one that was $1,500, and it was limited run. I think they made 666. How clever. That had a Swiss Salita movement in there. The other good thing I like about this version compared to the other Oceanographers was I was very tempted to get the other Oceanographers, but they are bigger. They're 44mm case size, and they do wear quite big. They're quite bulky, quite top heavy. I was very close to buying one, but then this is just about 41 and it wears far more elegantly. That is what is clever about this watch, is it's a more appropriate proportion for this kind of vintage era piece. And another reason why I just like Bulova and this watch as well is the other interesting pieces that they offer. They've got that range of diversity, really interesting watches. Just to give you an idea of the kind of watches they have available at the moment, you've got very expensive, multitude of thousands of dollars, the Accutron with an electrostatic movement. Go and Google that and have your mind blown. It's so clever. Then there's this new tonneau shaped curve, a curve watch with an ultra high frequency quartz, so it's really accurate. It looks stunning. You got the Hack field watch, compact dimensions, again bit of a clunky movement, but it's a good looker. Quite plain, but it's a great looking field watch. Then there's the Accutron Legacy range, again bringing back pieces from the 70s with more modern movements. These are more expensive pieces, over $1,000, with Swiss movements in. Then you've got Lunar Pilot. I have not bought one yet because it's way too big and clunky in my opinion. I keep trying them on and just being disappointed about how bulky it looks. But what a watch with history, you know. Then we have the Surfboard, another classic reissue, which just looks fun and vibrant and interesting, and it's just a bit weird. And that's what I like about this watch as well, the fact it's a bit weird. You know, you've got a bright orange dial, you've got these really huge indices. Look at the size of them. Obviously the original one had tritium, which I think was another thing they missed out on putting on here, so I like that. And the lume lasts so well. It is amazing. It really is what you'd expect for a dive watch. And you've just got the loomed triangle at the 12 within this sapphire insert, and then you got that really good contrast with the orange and the black, which helps that first 15-minute marker chunk of time really stand out as well. Even though it's not loomed, you can still see that contrast really good. I like the logo on here. I know some people say it looks a bit weird or joined up, but I like that look. I like that it's an applied logo and you can see all the joiny up bits. It just adds a bit of vintage charm. I like the name Snorkel. I love Oceanographer. I like the nickname Devil Diver. I like 666 feet. It's just a bit weird, a bit different. And what's also interesting is I love these inner lines. You know, you've got one line here that's unbroken going around with the outer edge of all these markers. Then you've got the dotted minute track, which lines up beautifully with the seconds hand and the minute hand. And those hands, they just contrast so beautifully. Are nice and broad. The white really helps stand out against the bright orange dial. Really legible, really fun and easy to read. Then you've got a date window that is clear and easy to read as well. And the Cyclops is good. And I like the fact it's underneath. You know, I'm not normally a fan of Cyclops. I think it's really cool to have one on the underside. Again, something a bit quirky, a bit different. This got some top hat sapphire that's also double domed, which just looks so beautiful, the way it can play with the light. And it's got AR coating as well. So again, it's very practical. Being an ISO rated diver, even though it looks like a vintage piece, it's got all these practical elements which make it legible in poor light conditions, which is what you effectively are demanding from this kind of watch. All the tactile aspects are really well done. The 120 click, it's firm, slightly zingy sound to it, if that's an appropriate description, but it sounds a little bit cheap, but it feels really nice, and that's important. And it lines up very well, perfectly in fact. The screw down crown is really easy to do. You can get a good purchase on it. There's a little pop when you unscrew it. Hand winding smooth and nice, even though it's a fairly clunky movement, and it engages so easily to screw back in. I like sort of the vintage style bit of branding on the crown there. I like the fact it doesn't have polished on the underneath. It's mostly brushed with a little bit of polishing all around the outer edge of the screw down case back. And the branding continues on the underside as well, with this nice ribbed strap. Again, it's a bit gross. It's a bit of a gunk magnet. And then you've got, again, a lovely branded buckle here on the strap, which again is unfortunately a bit of a scratch magnet. It's got so many elements that just work. That's why I'm a fan. And I think, flaws which I've indicated aside, it is such a beautiful, interesting piece with so much history. And that's why I'd recommend it. And that's why I wanted to make this video and share with you my happy purchase I've made. I've had this well over a month now, and the luster has not waned. I just think it's beautiful. If you think this review's been absolutely beautiful, don't forget to hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. And subscribe if you want to see more of my stuff. See you in the next one. Bye for now.